back to the slides to see what we want to cover. We want to log in via OAuth because we want to have different users, of course, for our application. We want to add a new bar by entering textual content, and we want to upload and attach an image to an existing entry. So let's go back to Xcode, where we will first take a look at how the login is implemented. So the login is, as I said, using OAuth. And what we will do here is just display the web page which does the login via OAuth with our with this URL, and we're using the client ID, which I showed earlier. For OAuth, we need a scope. There are actually two scopes for the Auth API. One is for just delivering read-only content, and one is for read-write, which is the content management manage scope. So we just construct the URL to show the actual form. So this is, of course, then a web view. We set ourselves as a delegate so that we get the redirect after the OAuth call. And we load the OAuth URL I just showed into a web view. One thing you will have to do at the moment, because there's no mobile optimized version of the login screen, is to actually, when the login screen has finished, to scroll it to the login itself, which this web view did finish load delegate method does. And after the login, the callback URL will be called, of course, which in our case starts with Contentful. I just use a custom URL scheme for that. And in the should.load-with-request method, which is called every time a URL is loaded in the web view, we assume if the URL starts with Contentful, we got the callback from the OAuth login, and we can extract the token from there. That is just some simple string manipulation, because the callback URL will contain a hash, and after that the token. And so this is just some string manipulation to extract the token from the URL. And when we got such a token, we will store it in the keychain. This application actually only supports one user logged in at a time. So we use a constant, which is defined up here as service and username for the keychain, and then store the token in there. In case of error, we show some error. That's the if clause here. And after the login, we will also dismiss the login form. So as I don't want to show you my password here, I will just show you a screenshot of what the login looks like. This is just that, and after the sign-in, the callback will be called, and we get the token, which we actually need to access the CMA. So for that, we're going to look at the first thing we want to accomplish, which is entering textual content and creating a new entry with it. For that, I've created this view controller, which is called bar entry view controller, which is just table view controller. It will use the group style. You should probably take a look at it first, so it is a bit easier to go through the code. It's a second tab called add bar, which will first fetch the content type to display all fields which contain either strings or symbols. And for each one, we can enter some text, and we have a save button in the right-hand corner, which will create a new entry with the content we just typed in here. So let's go back. So this code will display our save button. We will attach it to the save tab method. We have the title, and we are registering a custom cell class. We can take a quick look at that. That is just a normal cell, a default cell, which has as its accessory view a text field which has half of the width of a cell. In addition to that, it also has a property for storing the field identifier this cell represents. So let's look at this. This is what happens, what we saw when we go to the form. It will first display this HUD, which just says fetching content type, and then we will actually access the CMA. For that, we have a different client object, which is the CMA client, which just gets an access token. We get that from the login view controller. Oh yeah, I forgot to show that method. There is a class method OAuth token, which will just give us back the OAuth token for the currently logged in user from the keychain. So all the dealing with the keychain is just in this one class. So with the access token, we can create the CMA client. In contrast to the CDA, the client can access all the spaces this account, which the access token belongs to, has access to. So what we first do is we will fetch a specific space, which is the one we have defined in our space key again. And for that, we get a callback with the space. We restore the space for later use. Then we will also want to get the content type, which is this method, fetch content types with success, which will give us all the content types. As we just has one, we assume there's only one with an assert. And we also store this for later use. And what we will do now is assemble an array of all the textual fields. So we walk through all the fields of a content type, and if those are either symbols or text, we add it to our array of fields. And this is the array which the table view will represent. So we set our property for that and reload the table view. Oh yeah, what we also do is enable the save button, because before we have the content type, it doesn't make sense to have it enabled. Yeah, and then down here we just have the error handling, which will just show the error in an alert view, which is this method. So as we already saw, this class has a couple of properties. It has the fields we wanted to display. We have the client, the content type, and the space for later use. So let's look at the table view specific methods. We have just one section in this table view. We have a row for each field, and creating a cell, we dequeue a text field cell for this index path. We also get the corresponding field from the fields array. We will store the identifier so that we can later identify which text belongs to which field. And what we also do is we will set the text field delegate to this class, and we have a field name as a label. Just for convenience, we also implement the didSelectRow index path delegate method. So we get, no matter where we click in the cell, we will activate the entry field. And if we hit the return key of the keyboard, we want to hide the keyboard. So that's basically all we need to do to display the form, and what we also have is the save tabbed action, where we also dismiss the keyboard. We will assemble a dictionary of all the values the user has put in. Yeah, for that we walk through all the visible cells. If there is content in one of the text field cells, we add this to the dictionary with the field identifier we stored before and the text field text. What is of note here is when we create an entry, we will have the possibility to specify all locales. So what we have to do is for each, the value for each entry field will be a dictionary with the corresponding locale as the key. So in this case, we just have the ENUS locale, and we want to set the text field text for that. We will also display another HUD which says saving. And now we will create an entry. The creation methods are in the CMA are mostly on the space object because we create an entry in a specific space. The only exception is, of course, creating a space itself. That will be done on a client. In this case, we want to create an entry. So we create an entry. We have to specify the content type. This is the content type we stored earlier. We have to specify the field values, which is the dictionary we just assembled, of which has one entry for each field, whose value is again in a dictionary with all the locales, and then the actual value for each of the locales. So then we have standard success and failure callbacks, and if we succeed, we will empty the form because we then can create a new entry. And if it fails, we will display an error again. So that's our form. Let's try it out. Fetch the content type, and now we will enter a name. We have a beer menu, which will say just, I don't know, Pilsner. And beer type served is limited, we say. So now we hit save, the entry will be created and our form will be emptied. So now we can go back to the web interface, reload, and oh, we actually didn't have to reload. Anyway, we see the bar here. What you see is it's a draft now. So if we want to publish it already, we have the CMA, we have to implement another call for publishing. So just get it to the entry with your the values we actually set. So let's also do the publishing. Publishing is a method on the entry itself. There's publish with success and failure. Gonna put our code for the success to this callback, and we can put the error handling in here. And let's try this out. Now it should actually publish the entry after we save it. I'm gonna save another bar. And now we have another bar and it's published. So as you know, maybe as when we make changes to the entry, which we will not do in this demo, but in general, you have to publish it again for them to show up. So finally, we will look at how to upload an asset and add it to an existing entry. For this, I have a third view controller, which is called image upload view controller. In here, Let's look at the UI first again to make it a bit easier to follow. We have the upload tab here, so we have a button for uploading. We can select the image, which will open our photo library. We can select an entry, which will show us all the entries of our space, and then we can upload. So what we do is basically first a lot of stuff we already know how to do because it's just on iOS stuff. We show the button on the right hand corner. What I do here is create a delivery client. I built this example so that every view controller is self-contained. So we have to create a new CDA client here with our space key and access token that will be used to fetch the list of entries. So we can only add assets to entries which are published in here because this is also a difference between the two APIs. The CMA, when you fetch entries from it or assets, it will give you all the assets and entries which are existing, no matter the status. And when we use the CDA, you will only get published content and also only the published version. So that is another thing to keep in mind. What we want to display here is just an image view. We will add a tap gesture on the image view, which will show us the image picker. We will have an label, which shows us the selected entry, or it will say no entry selected if there's none selected yet. And we have a button for the selection. So what happens when we hit the button for the entry selection? We just saw we got a list of entries. This is actually another component the SDK already provides, which is a CDA entries view controller. That is just a table view of all the entries you have, all the published entries, because it's using the delivery API. And what you do there is specify a cell mapping that will tell the view controller in which property of each cell you will see what field. So in this case, for the text label text, we want to have the name of the bar. The CD entries view controller also has a delegate. You have that implemented here. When you select a row, it will be called, giving you the entry which was selected. And in this case, we will dismiss the view controller and update the label, store the entry that was selected. And we have this method to toggle the activation of the upload button. So only if you have a selected entry and the selected image, we will enable the upload button. We have a second action on the image, which will show an image picker controller with the view controller as a delegate. We want to see the photo library and we want to present it. What happens after we select an image? The image picker controller did finish picking media with info delegate method is called. We can extract the image from there. If the user has selected an image, we want to set it into our image view and also store it as a selected image. We will update the upload button again and dismiss, of course, the picker controller. So that's basically what we have to do to select all the stuff. What is also interesting is, of course, how does the actual upload happen? We have another action for that, the upload tapped, which happens when you tap the upload button on the right hand corner. We will again show a HUD, so the user cannot interfere with the app while the upload is happening. We will instantiate another content management API client with the access token from the keychain. We will fetch our space. What we now have to do is, in this example, I'm using a third-party image service. to upload the image because the CMA actually works with URLs only. So you have to have a URL for your image before you can put it into Contentful. So you need some kind of way for uploading this image. In this case, I just use a public service, but you have to have some way to do this. So this is part of the one of the pods I've shown you earlier in the pod file, which enables us to upload an image and just get an URL for it. So we use this as a temporary storage. If the upload didn't work, we will present the error. If not, we want to create an asset. Each asset has a title and description. In this case, we don't care about it, so we set it to nil, and a file which we want to upload. Again, we have the possibility to upload different images for different languages. For example, if the image contains text. So we have to specify a dictionary again with a locale and the URL string. This will create the asset and will basically just store the URL on Contentful to actually have it fetch the image and process it. You will have to call the process with success failure method on the asset. That will start the processing, which is needed because we can also provide different formats of the image and things like that, and it will also fetch the URL. And after that, after the processing has finished, it will actually no longer be needed. So we just need it temporarily. In any case, what you have to keep in mind, the success block of the processing is just the processing has started, because this downloads an image and it also processes it. It can take basically an infinite amount of time. So there's no actual success callback for the processing. But we can already, also a non-processed image can be added to an entry. So what we do when the process has been started successfully, we will fetch the entry corresponding to the selection from the CMA in this case. Before we had again gotten it from the CDA, so we need to use the identifier to now get the CMA object. So this is how we can set a link on the CMA. The entry has a method set value for field with name. And this sets the value for this field. And in the case of a link, we have to specify that it is a link. The link type, which is asset in this case, and also the asset identifier. This is actually something that will probably change in the future because it's a bit convoluted. But as we just released the CMA, we're still going to improve the usability a bit in the future. But you can still use this in this way, and this will continue to work after we change it, but there will be a simpler way to do it as well, basically. What we also have to do now, when we set values on the entry, we will actually just mutate our local entry. So what we have to do is to actually update it on the server. For that, we have the update with success failure method. So we can set multiple values here, or we could, and they will all be uploaded with one call. Yeah, and down here we just have the failure blocks for all the calls we made. So what this whole thing does is we upload the image to a service. We will create an asset of this image. We will start the processing, and we will attach this asset to a field of the entry. So let's actually try this out in the app. So we will switch to the upload tab again. We can select our another bar entry we created earlier. We can select a photo for it. Let's use a Doge, and we do the upload. This will now actually take a couple of seconds because the image gets uploaded to the third-party service. Then we're creating a bunch of stuff on Contentful. Now it's done. Yeah, the app is pretty basic, so we don't actually get some kind of confirmation for that. I opened the wrong browser. So if we look now at the another bar entry, we have the image right there. And what we now have to do to see it live on the CDA, we have to republish it. So when we now go back to the bars view controller, we haven't set anything there. We have probably to wait a couple of seconds until the CDA actually updates. There's a little bit of a delay because of the caching. Now it should have the image, but it doesn't. We will just relaunch the app. Nope. I guess there's an error here in the application. In any case, this is how you would upload an image with the CMA. And this is also basically the end of our demo. Let's go back to the slides for a bit. You can find the demo code on GitHub. I will make this repo public after this. And some additional resources you can check out. The first one is the link to the public Contentful repos on GitHub, where you can find the full source code for both SDKs. And also some other example apps. Basically everything we do on iOS is open source, so you can look at it. You can check out the documentation of both the management API and the delivery API, so the API documentation on Cocoa Docs. And you can also find our general developer documentation